All right, folks, hop in the car. We're going on a ride. This is the Happy We're Not Sick Anymore live show. We haven't done a show in like a week. It has been a week. It's been a week exactly. We did one last Monday where we were on live with Nick. Shout out to him. We got a little bit of a cough still. We're going to try to get through this. We had a fun weekend. We had Thanksgiving. I posted some pics. We went 1-2. Shout out to the backdoor cover. I was too busy and too sick to piece things together for Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. The only thing that matters is if I would have probably won 2 games at least. I would have taken the Jags yesterday. I would have bet the Steelers today. Other than that, oh well. I don't remember what else I would have probably taken. But yes, we are happy to be here. We hope everyone that is watching in some way, shape, or form, whether on the For Frequency's Sake YouTube channel, on our Facebook page, or my Facebook page, leave a like, leave a heart, leave a question. Please leave a question. I want this to be interactive. I want to know people are still alive at this time of the night. Let's have some fun. Until we have some interaction, we're going to go through kind of the normal Monday podcast schedule. We're going to talk yesterday's games. We're doing this, what is it? Second quarter of the Monday night game. You have to be a degenerate to still be watching that tragic football. That game's going about as I expected. I watched 5 snaps maybe. I ate and then got over here to get rolling. So we're going to talk. Pretty much we're going to give what last night's pod would have been, plus the Elite Eight. We're also going to do a weekend roundup of college football because there's some college stuff for this weekend, championship weekend, which we will probably touch more on specifically in the Sinister Six show this week, which will hopefully be Wednesday. Regardless, let's get after it. If you're here, if you're watching, again, please leave a like, comment, something, comment a question. Can be college football, NFL related, NBA related, World Cup related. Someone holler at Hamza for me. We need to do a World Cup podcast before the round of 16. Please, USA, don't lose to Iran tomorrow. That would be depressing. Western Big Six basketball related. I've got hot takes on that I'm sure people would love to hear. Regardless, let's have some fun. Let's start where we ended up last night in Philadelphia. I think there's multiple headlines, of course. There's the obvious one from the end of the game, Jordan Love, Aaron Rodgers thing. I want to get to that later. I think it was very good a night for the Eagles in a bounce-back scenario. Danny, my guy, asking in the comments. I'm going to jump to this quickly because I like Danny. He wants to know, this is off subject, but we're going to pop, why not? We'll start popping these in, and then we'll see what comes in and what doesn't. He wants to know, should the Jets start Zach Wilson when he's healthy? I'm going to say no. I'm also answering that now because I don't have the Jets on my rundown. I think the biggest thing with the Jets is that we have seen, or what we saw yesterday was too many important people that are good in that locker room just don't like him. And I think it was pretty obvious that everyone had more fun. And a guy like Mike White, who might not be a good player to a large extent, is good enough to be able to distribute the football around and get guys involved more. I mean, look at what they did with Joe Flacco early in the year. Garrett Wilson had great numbers. Elijah Moore was better than what he was before yesterday. So I think Mike White's probably got it the rest of the season. But back to the Eagles. I think yesterday was great for them to get back and going after 2 weeks. They lose to Washington. They then play pretty average against Indianapolis, though I will commend them. I was happy to see them finish the way they did and win a game like that. And yesterday they just dominated. Now, I will say this. I'm happy that Green Bay didn't roll over. I thought when it got 13-0, Eagles get a quick score, and then after next drive for Green Bay, Rodgers throws one down the field, It bounces off of Darius Slay's head. It flies back 30 yards and gets picked. It's like, oh, this is the epitome of the Eagles' turnover luck all season. And I thought the game was going to be 42-6, and it wasn't. It just wasn't. And the Packers showed resolve, which I will give them credit for. And it was very impressive that they were able to hang in there. Regardless, though, I'm very impressed with how Philadelphia moved the guys around. The offense, when it thrives, it always – this is what I always say. They always make you wrong. Whatever decision you choose, they make you wrong. When you want to play the run, they're going to slip out of the backfield, hit you in the flat with a pass. Jalen Hurts, for the first time all year, really showed his prowess as a runner. I know he's obviously been a guy that's been involved in the run game all year, but yesterday was dominant. He just shows, like, you got him, Fields, Lamar. I think those are really the only three guys that can control a game at the quarterback position running the football. And it's valuable. It's valuable. Let's move on to the fun stuff that everybody is probably wanting to know what my take on, and that is the Aaron Rodgers, Jordan Love thing. So let's rewind to when the Packers first drafted Jordan Love. I understood it, kinda. The Packers were, playing pretty bad the year before. Rodgers wasn't good. They fire McCarthy. Obviously, Rodgers then rallies off 2 straight MVP seasons. But I thought Jordan Love, I didn't think first round, but I thought second, third round pick. I was like, all right, I saw some stuff at Utah State that made me feel like, there's some stuff there. With Green Bay, he didn't really improve. And last year, in year 2, after just sitting and learning for a year and a half, that game that he started in Kansas City was rough. He was really bad. He was uncomfortable. They couldn't really expand the playbook, and it just didn't look good. Now, this year in the preseason, I thought there was some stuff that he did that was, he looked more the part. And then yesterday, the first thing I said when shit hit the fan and he's out there, I'm like, listen, I want to see the playbook expanded. I want to see what you're going to call for 12, call for this kid. Okay? I don't want to see some, handcuffed bullshit. I want to know, you need to find out right now if 10 can play. And they actually did. They let him throw some timing stuff. They let him run a nice little RPO play. Watson obviously springs it to the house, but listen, there's a balance. I think anybody who wants to sit there and it's like, oh, holy God, Jordan Love, look at all these throws he made. Look at all the throws he made. Let's calm down. But if it is, you'd be like hypocritical or just dumb to look at that and be like, oh, and not be, I should say, like, oh, there's something to work with. There's improvement, because that's what there is. There's improvement. He actually looked the part. He understood where to be, where to step up in space. He wasn't, the moment an edge started collapsing on him, he didn't shit himself and freak out like, oh my God. He was throwing the ball on time. He had some anticipation on some of his stuff. He missed a guy. Like, I think there was a play where he ended up rolling out. He had Lazard ran an out and then an up into the end zone. If he would have fluttered it over, he would have threw a touchdown. But, like, there's some stuff he did. He threw a beautiful hole shot down the near side. That was nice. So, look, man, that was good. Now we get to the bad stuff. Everyone's going to want to say today, and everyone is going to be right in saying this: they should sit Rodgers the rest of the year because, A, the season's shit. It's shot. It's gone to shit. B, you got to find out if 10 can actually stack starts together. I guess that's really it. Nothing else to play for. Oh, and C, Rodgers is hurt. Broken thumb, oblique injury. Like, he's done. There's no don't get him killed for no reason. Here's the problem, though. Everyone's going to be like, oh, you find out all this, and then you can trade Rodgers. Well, guess what, people? Can't really trade Aaron Rodgers. I need to pull up some text group chat threads from last night that we had because these are good. My man Blake sent me these. Shout out to Blake Ringer. Aaron Rodgers cap hit for 2023 is $31.6 million with no way to reduce it. $0 available for your restructures. If he is traded, his dead cap jumps to 40.3. If he retires, his dead cap jumps to 40.3. If he is cut, his dead cap is $99.8 million. And this is just great. This just makes me smile. And the scenarios get worse in each subsequent year. 2025, the cap hit starts at 59. $15 million are available via restructuring. If he is traded, his dead cap, if he's traded, retired, or cut, the cap is at 76.8. Listen, here is the thing. People want to say, all of a sudden, future, here we go. Like, Love's going to play the Bears next week, and Love is going to look probably pretty good because the Bears defense is ass, and the good players they have are all hurt. Brisker's been out. Gordon's now out. Jalen Johnson hasn't been playing. Eddie Jackson just got hurt. He'll probably be done for the year, which AKA their secondary. And hopefully Fields plays because that'll be a fun-ass game. It'll be like a CFL game, basically. Here's the problem, though, people. Love is going to put up these numbers, and then all of a sudden everyone's going to be like, oh, look at this. Here, the next guy right up. Well, guess what, people? It's cool that you're going to have a dude on a rookie contract, but you don't have him on that for much longer. And here's the other issue. You're going to have dead – if you decide to think you can just pawn off 12 on somebody else, enjoy that dead cap for the next, I don't know, until you're planning your next child. Just saying, it's not good. It's not a good scenario. So Packers fans, I just want to warn you. If and possibly when, and probably when, Jordan Love looks good in the last month of the season, just know that comes with a price. Now, maybe you just trade Jordan Love for, and get like a decent pick out of it, like a 4, maybe, to some desperate team. Maybe, like the Jets, that'd be cool. Or the Raiders once they trade Derek Carr. Nah, maybe not anymore. Or Washington. Could you imagine? That'd be fun. Just saying, though, either choice you make comes with a price. You have Rodgers, regardless. You have him, and he hasn't been great for like the whole season. Continues to get hurt, and he costs a lot of money. If you get rid of him, your roster isn't great. It's overrated, especially at key positions. Guys are injured at key positions. You're thin up front on both sides of the ball, and you still have no money. So congratulations, Packers fans. You lose both scenarios. All right, moving on. Let me just give a little... let me just say, for those that are watching live, thank you. We'll post this tomorrow for live or for regular podcast consumption. And we want to, of course, thank everybody who is tuning in. We got one on the For Frequency Sake page, so shout out to them. All right. Again, ask questions regardless of topic. We're just kind of running down a normal rundown. You can ask me anything. College football, NBA, NFL, Western Big Six basketball, since that just started last week. You can ask me some dumb Thanksgiving pie question. I don't know. We will have the Elite Eight at the end of the show. Got that all drawn up. Shocker that the Colts-Steelers game has no ties to that whatsoever. All right. Let's move on This is my favorite game of the weekend. Baltimore and Jacksonville. What a game Sunday. This is the perfect example of why I have told everybody, imagine being a human being that lives and breathes on the earth that we are all together on that gave up on Trevor Lawrence or Justin Fields. Imagine. What Trevor Lawrence did yesterday was sensational. He's awesome. And the same thing has been for Fields for the last month. And Lawrence has had about a month's plus worth of good games this year as well. I'm going to get to Lawrence in a second, but I always got to get this off my chest because it's like when people, it's like the Bryce Young thing this year. It's like, why do you have to, when you see a guy who's rated that high forever and then he shows it in college, guess what? He's probably good enough to do it in the NFL. Okay? Fields and Lawrence were rated 1 and 2 in high school together. They were 1 and 2 in college forever. And then all of a sudden the Jets were like, screw it, we're taking the kid that go into the Mormon school. Well, guess what now? They're fucked. Congratulations, Jets. You have Zach Wilson on your team. But yeah, Trevor Lawrence, he's really good. And the throws he made yesterday, oh man, those were awesome. And the emergence of the Jags lately, this season, it's been a bit of a roller coaster. And here's the problem that we all had with the Jags from the start of the year. We thought they'd be good this year because we wanted them to skip a step. In the reality of sports, there are stages. The first stage, of course, is winning, right? The bottom stage is you suck and you're getting your ass beat. What happens in the middle? That's where the Jags are this year. They're losing close. So in order to get from being terrible to winning, you have to learn how to lose close. And that's what the Jags have done this year. They have I think they still have to be top 10 in point differential. I'm looking that up. They DVOA, which I think the only real super nerdy analytics stat I like to look at is DVOA for NFL stuff. And I think that's a good one. The Jags have a plus point differential. They're plus 12. The Colts are minus 47 for those that care. Let me see. The Chargers are minus 30. Everyone loves the Chargers. The Giants are minus 7. The Vikings are only plus 5. So listen, man. I'm not saying point differential is everything, but I think it matters. So when you look at the Jags, everybody expected them to skip a step. It's a rarity that happens. I guess you can say the Bengals last year. But again, they had one of the more odd variant seasons ever where they won so many games on the last play, and there was a bit of luck that went into it. So take that for what it's worth. Do I think the Jags next year can have a Bengals-type leap? I don't know, but they're going to be pretty damn close. Because you want to know why? Because they've got 16. And that's, at the end of the day, sometimes all that matters is if you've got the dude that touches the ball every play, that not your center, but he's important too. As long as you got that right, that matters. It matters a lot. That's why the Bears have been vastly more entertaining the last 2 months because number one has been awesome. That's why the trajectory for them going forward is great. Listen, man, when you have a guy like Trevor Lawrence, who is easily, his floor is probably a top 12 QB, which I think at the end of the day, that's what you need because that's about a third of the league. And when you look at it right now, Tua and Hurts this year are two quarterbacks leading two teams that are Super Bowl contenders. And Dak, you can even throw Dak as well. Their ceiling or floor is top 12 quarterback. I think that's pretty good. Pretty good, if you ask me. All right, moving on to the Ravens. No team this year has done a better job of getting in their own way than Baltimore. I really believed in them at the beginning of the year. And it's not that I don't. It's not that I don't now, but man, there's just some weird stuff. Their play calling is still a mess. Their red zone is terrible. The Lamar Jackson stuff is really weird. Like the body language, the going off on people on Twitter. Like he's pissed. He is obviously pissed. And they obviously didn't sign him. Are they just going to let him walk? I don't know. I mean, part of me hopes because it would maybe show the Ravens like this is what happens when you don't build the right way. And Lamar, maybe it would, call them out to show them Lamar has kind of carried them the last 2 or 3 years, which he has. They haven't really been much without him. Brian says, yes, Lamar overrated. I don't know about that, man. I think Lamar's pretty awesome. The stuff that's just been going on is weird. It's been really weird. And I think it's a plethora of things. My biggest issue with them has always been the play calling. Greg Roman, I understand the pistol stuff that they've done. He got it from Nevada with Kaepernick. And the way they incorporated that into the NFL, I think is really good because it marries, it puts the two together of the shotgun and the under center game. I don't think teams use it well enough, honestly, because I'd love to even see like the Bears use some shit like that. The pistol, I love the pistol myself. I think if you see teams run it and you see the way they run it in college or pro, when you see it run at a high level, it's very hard to stop. Problem for the Ravens is they've just always struggled to actually go out and get adequate receivers. The play calling is the biggest thing I have, and their red zone inefficiencies this year have been horrendous. And some of it has been Lamar not making plays, like the Buffalo game, for example. But Sunday was, Lamar was pretty good, and they dropped 3 or 4 touchdowns. He's just laying them up to dudes, and dudes are dropping them. So I don't know. Listen, if I had to pick, I'd kill to see him go to like Atlanta. I really would, because Arthur Smith, I think, really gets it, and the weapons that would be there. Like, could you imagine Lamar throwing to Drake London and Kyle Pitts? And could you imagine with that? I mean, the running game is just about the same as it is in Baltimore with the backs. I don't see much difference between guys, like especially if they kept Cordero, like Cordero Patterson with Algier and Huntley. The other end, you have Dobbins, who's never fucking playing because he's hurt, and you have what's his face, Gus the Bus Edwards, which both are good, but like I'm just saying. So that's in a perfect world, that's where I would hope he would go, because I think that'd be fun. Or, of course, the Jets, though I would hate to play him twice. I don't know what the Ravens are, though, this year. I had high hopes for them. Their defense hasn't been good either. Marcus Peters has been getting shredded. I don't know, man. The Ravens are weird. And all of a sudden, that the door is cracked open in the AFC North. All right, moving on to Tampa Bay and Cleveland. Boy, oh boy. I wish the Browns wouldn't have goofed away at one of those games early in the year so I could be more excited. They're 4-7. They need to basically win out. But Deshaun Watson's coming back, so you never know. Listen, man, I'm gonna be glued to my TV next Sunday, because on the field, one of the most electric players in the history of the league is back. So when 4 comes onto the field in Houston, they're probably gonna throw beer cans at his head, which will be funny. But then he'll probably drop 350 yards on him, so that would be even funnier. The Browns have been a mess with situational stuff this year, and the roster management put so much into getting Watson and to trying to make sure that he didn't get suspended for the full season that they kind of forgot to do other stuff, like build a defensive line that didn't just consist of Myles Garrett and a bunch of average players. Their linebacker, their middle field back level is so bad. Their linebackers are slow. Their safeties are horrendous. Corners are good, but it doesn't matter when you can't stop the run. Speaking of bad situationally, But real quick, I will say this: I'm happy for the Browns and I'm happy for Jacoby Brissett. He had a couple games this year. Like, if Nick Chubb doesn't score a touchdown, they beat the Jets. Also, if Cade York doesn't miss that freaking extra point, the game's tied. They don't lose. If they played Baltimore like a month ago in Baltimore, Brissett throws a dime down the sideline to Amari Cooper. He catches it and scores, and they called like the worst offensive pass interference call ever. Go back and watch it. It's so bad. That should have been a Browns win. So they've had a couple games that just were weirdly ripped away from them. And if they would have had a couple different, if this team was 5-6 or 6-5 right now, we'd all be talking about the Browns possibly winning the Super Bowl, because I think they have enough adding Deshaun. People don't want to say it, but it's true. The problem is, though, that they have to win out. And even if they won out, you'd get to 10-7, but it's probably not going to be enough unless the Jets kind of run into losses, which, granted, hey, they are quarterbacked by Mike White, so it could be a thing. But still, that's tough because you still got to play. You do go to Houston, but then after that, it's not easy, man. You go to Cincinnati. Now, granted, you blew their doors off a few weeks ago. Then you get the Ravens at home. I think that's one you'll probably win. You get the Saints at home. The Saints are terrible. And then you end with at Washington, who's all of a sudden Washington's the hottest team in the league right now. Worth noting. And then you end with the Steelers. Even if you go like 5-1, 4-2, that'd be remarkable, but too many lost opportunities. But I am happy that the Browns got one over yesterday on the Bucs. Now let's talk about the Bucs. Okay, top to bottom, it's a mess. So, by the way, those who are watching live, thank you. Have any questions, comments about anything, whether it's what we're talking about or not, I'll answer it. Hope you're all enjoying. Share, like, comment, subscribe, all those good things. Subscribe. What am I talking about? Thank you all for watching and listening to me yell a lot. So here's the problem with the Bucs. As a whole, the coaching staff from top to bottom, it's gross. It's grotesque. We have seen this year why Brady he retired. Obviously, there were some issues at home. We all know that. But I think there's a reason that the whole Miami tampering thing was on the table. He probably would have been a Dolphin or traded to the Niners if he could have got his way and gotten out of the Tampa Bay contract. I think that's what he was trying to get at. And it's why I don't think this is going to be his last year. Honestly, after all this, if this is his last season, if he retired at the end of the year, that unless somehow this team won a Super Bowl, which it's not off the table, but man, the more and more that goes by, I'm starting to wonder how good this team actually is, because they're not. Thing is, they're just going to have matchups advantages in the playoffs. Listen, where was I at? Oh, even if this ends with the Super Bowl, I don't think that Brady will retire, because I think he doesn't want to end in Tampa. He doesn't like Leftwich. He obviously had issues with Arians, and Bowles is a dope as a coach. He's a great coordinator, fantastic coordinator. We saw with the Jets it didn't work. We're seeing with this team it didn't work. Byron Leftwich, by the way, Jags fans, I'd say this to Blake all the time. He's a Jags fan. How thankful are you? If there's any Jags fans out there that listen to this, aren't you glad that Doug Peterson is your coach and not Byron Leftwich? Because that was almost a thing. Byron Leftwich is terrible. He's so bad at his job. The Bucs as a whole, from top to bottom on their coaching staff, it's not good. The management's not good. The play calling is horrendous. Situationally, they're just a mess. The stuff they did in this game, they're up 17-10 in the fourth quarter. They have like a 4th and 2. Instead of going for it to try to get closer to go up 2 scores on Jacoby frickin' Brissett in the fourth quarter with less than 10 minutes to go. Nope, let's take the delay of game, punt, and the punt goes into the end zone. They let the Browns hang around for too long, and it killed them. They punted twice in overtime with Tom Brady. And the Bucs are a mess. And the NFC South is a disaster, but it's beautiful, but it's also horrendous. And I don't know. The Falcons, who, by the way, the all whites for the Falcons, with the way their matte helmet is, beautiful look. Just wanted to throw that out there. Falcons had it. It was there, and then it wasn't against Washington. And that would have been big because that would have tied the division again. And they still have the game in Atlanta at some point here in the final month or change of the year. I just don't know what the Bucs can do. I always think, listen, man, like here's at least what I thought a couple weeks ago. They're going to get the 4 seed at 9-8 or whatever, and they're going to play Daniel Jones in round 1 and then probably Kirk Cousins in round 2. Well, here's the problem. The Giants have fallen back to earth, and not just that, they have crashed their plane into the ocean. It's starting to sink and no one is going to be able to survive. Okay, that got dark really fast, but hey, the Giant season is also getting dark very fast. We see people coming in and watching. We thank you all. Listen, here's the thing. Bad timing, by the way, for the plane crash joke. Here's the problem with the Bucs is that it's not going to be like that anymore. They're going to play the Cowboys, or if somehow the Eagles and Cowboys flip, if the Cowboys somehow won the East, which would be pretty remarkable at this point because you need the Eagles to lose 2 games in a month, which would be wild, and the Cowboys to win out. They'd have to win out, which would be impressive. But I just don't see it happening. So regardless, they're either playing Dak or the Eagles in round 1. Bad matchups to an extent. The Cowboys would probably, it'd either be a pick 'em or the Cowboys would be like a slight favorite. Brian, I hate you. I'll get to that in a second. And where were we at? So the problem for the Bucs, I keep thinking, all right, they're going to get these matchups in the playoffs to where at the end of the day, it's going to be like, who are you picking, Brady or this quarterback that you don't trust? We're going to take Brady and just hope it works. The problem is everything else around Brady doesn't work, and the Bucs aren't going to have the luxury of those matchups anymore, especially round 1, because that Dallas is a bad matchup for them, man, especially with their O-line, how it's been. Anyway, my Bucs prayers and dreams are crashing. All right, Brian asks, he's trolling. He's got to be trolling. Are the Washington commies? They're not the commies, man. They're the Washington C words. Get it right. The Washington C words better than the Bears. Is Heinicke better than Fields? Yes, and then no. Heinicke is not better than Fields. Heinicke's a gamer, and the locker room loves him, though. And I like him. I think that he's perfect for what they need right now, which is you need someone to come in and just keep everything together with duct tape because Wentz was awful. If Jordan Love's actually decent, I'd love Jordan Love to be like on Washington just to see what would happen. That'd be fun. But Washington better than the Bears right now? Absolutely. Washington's the hottest team in the league. I'm glad you brought them up because it gives me an excuse to talk about them because, spoiler alert, they're not in the Elite Eight. 6-1 in their last 7. Oddly enough, it started with that win in Chicago, that horrendous Thursday night game. Receivers, they're loaded. Agree on both accounts. Thank you, Brian. Brian saying Justin Fields is better than somebody. We have won. Oh, we've done it. Okay, so the Washington, I think Nick and I said it last week. I think we both agree that they're going to be the 7 seed. They play the Giants twice in the next 3 weeks. They play the Giants, a bye, and then they have the Giants again. That's going to be whoever, if either one sweeps, the other one's gone. That's the 7 seed. In the next 3 weeks, the 7 seed in the NFC is going to be decided unless, I guess you still have Seattle, because technically right now the Giants and the Commanders are both in it. Seattle's just kind of there. Seattle's not look good. They did not look good yesterday. Defensively, they were terrible. I'm hoping that was just kind of a one-off. They do get the good news for Seattle is they get the Rams twice, which they're horrendous. So yeah, man, I think Washington's they're good. They've got good pieces. Brian Robinson, what a story. Is there anybody else in the league that I want to cheer harder for this year than Brian Robinson, man? That like nearly getting the carjacking, getting shot, coming back, walking out to 50 Cent, Many Men, Wish Death Upon Me. That was cold. Yeah, man, he's been great too. He's been awesome for him. Had 100 yards yesterday. And they have found ways to win. Now, they've also found ways to lose. The only loss in this stretch was that Minnesota game, and that was a dumb loss. They had a couple bits of luck go their way against Philly to an extent. Like the fumble that happened when they missed the face mask. Quez Watkins catching a 40-yard bomb, then forgetting that it wasn't college football, got up and got smoked and fumbled. I'm just trying to think of anything else. I'm not going to count the Bears game. That was just dumb on everybody. Outside of that, yesterday you could say like the weird deflection to the interception with the Falcons on the doorstep. Like they just find ways to win. And sometimes that's all you need to just get in. And they're living on that right now. But they're a solid team. All right, let's move on quickly. I want to touch on some college football stuff. Do you guys want to hear me yell about how Michigan owns Ohio State, or should I talk about how Caleb Williams is awesome first? Let's talk about Caleb Williams first. Caleb Williams is great. Caleb Williams should win the Heisman. Caleb Williams, Lincoln Riley has been sensational this year at USC. Here's the problem. Too many people are going to, I think, let me tread water here. Too many people are going to try to discount this USC thing and just be like, oh, well, we all thought they were going to be 9 and whatever, 10 and whatever. Like, yeah, but remember, like at the end of the day, you always have to caveat they went 4-8 a year ago. And they brought transfers in. And they got all these transfers. And I know I called them a hired hit squad. And I said, I think they can go 9-3. They're 11-1. So that in itself is impressive. What they've done this year is nothing short of sensational. It's sensational. Caleb Williams, I was on the fence to a degree with Caleb. We are now at the point where I am fully bought in. Like I love Bryce Young, but he'd probably go first in this draft. He'll probably go first next. He should go first next year unless Drake May just goes absolutely supernova, which he could. He could. Caleb Williams is awesome. USC is awesome. The thing right now with them and TCU, hopefully they both win because then we can get TCU and USC in the playoff. And then we obviously Michigan and Georgia. I think Georgia, Michigan, and TCU should all be locked in. I feel like that's a consensus around the country right now. And USC at 4. If they win, obviously they're getting in. The sad part is if they lose, an undeserving team like either Ohio State or Alabama are going to get in. And they just don't deserve it. They just don't deserve it. You can say all these things about Ohio State. Oh, well, one loss and whatnot. And Bama, they're 2 losses on the final play. And hey, I would love to watch more meaningful Bryce Young snaps than anybody that's alive other than like his mother. But, at the end of the day, when a team doesn't deserve to get in the playoff, we're not out here giving out handouts, people. So that's my take on that. And by the way, Michigan just ragdolling Ohio State. Other than it being hilarious, which it is, it's a tale of a couple things. I think there's some narratives that you can build from it on the whole soft culture versus big, heavy meatball culture in football, like finesse and, like finesse versus tough, grind it out, punch you in the mouth, etc. I think there is an extent to that. I think the offense or the defense for Ohio State last year, as well as their offense, was not physical. They were finesse. And Michigan, for 60 minutes, ripped them to shreds. And this wasn't the only case because they played Oregon last year at the beginning of the year. And Oregon ripped their faces off there. And Utah came out and punched them in the mouth. Problem was, Utah's secondary was full of future accountants and tax attorneys that they weren't able to stop, 4 NFL dudes at receiver for Ohio State. So this year, Ohio State kind of gets to, walk through the mud all season, mostly unscathed offensively. The Notre Dame game was a bit weird, let's be real. But Notre Dame, good team. I thought defensively, though, it was a nice little improvement. It was like, meh. Maybe, though, this should have been a red flag that they couldn't really move the ball against Notre Dame other than a couple plays. C.J. Stroud made things look nice, etc. Throughout the year, they're going through all hunky-dory and whatnot, and they look good. And then the Northwestern game. Northwestern? Really? But it's like 90-mile-an-hour winds. And, that field there, they probably didn't cut for 2 months. And it's raining. It's like, we can give them a pass, right? They won by a couple scores at the end of the day. So, okay, we'll give them a pass. All right, here they come to Michigan. Here's the problem, man. At the end of the day, it's going to catch up to you, right? You can only fake it for so long until finally someone figures you out. And Michigan, for the second straight year, figured them out. Now, I do think the defense has taken strides. But at the end of the day, they're still slow. Their linebackers don't come downhill. Their DBs are very average. We'll get to stuff like that later. And offensively, they don't overwhelm you. They win with finesse. They win with skill and pizzazz. And CJ, throwing for a lot of yards. And Marvin Harrison making a bunch of crazy catches. And Michigan took them into the mud and outmanned them. That's really what it was. And it's... At the end of the day, Ohio State and Michigan both went to one of them log chopping contests or them wood axing or whatever contests. Michigan brought an axe and Ohio State brought a butter knife. One team was prepared and one team wasn't. And I know here's where the narrative can flip because there's some crazy ass stat where it's like Michigan, 5 of their plays, they hit for like 360 yards. And then the rest, the other like 40, 50 or whatever it was, they hit for like 90, which is wild. That as alone is nuts because they hit 5 massive home run plays, which they had like a third down prayer where they hit a hitch route. Johnson broke the tackle, went down the far sideline and scored. They came back. They ran a double move for 6. I think there was 1-2 where they hit the tight end, and then they had the 2 big runs late. So 5 huge runs and plays was necessarily the game. And I understand that. But Ohio State couldn't block them up front. Adjustments were made. Second straight year. Not only were they out physical, not only were they outmanned, not only did they get bullied, this time at home, they hadn't lost to that team at home since 2000. I don't remember what I was doing in 2000. I was 5. Just saying. Throwing that out there. I'm sure it was a pretty cool year. Y2K was a thing. The internet wasn't really a thing yet. Oh my goodness. 2000. Okay. Jim Tressel was their head coach. Sweater vests were in style. That was the last time they lost in Columbus to Michigan. They got killed for the second straight year. They got bulldozed. And it was not pretty. And outcoached everything that you can imagine. And Ryan Day, it's not a hot seat. But boy, oh boy, that room's getting a little warm in Columbus, brother. Because here's the thing. This is the one thing. You have 3 goals at Michigan or at Ohio State. You got to beat Michigan, win the Big Ten, win national title. Now, obviously, the national title thing you can have some reins on because it's hard. It's hard to win national titles. It just is. It just is. I think since I graduated high school, 4 teams have Florida State, Clemson, Bama, Georgia, Ohio State, 5. 5 teams in a decade since I graduated high school have won a national title. Not great. Not a great not a great average or ratio, I would say. Ohio State, though, they're not just not winning national titles. 2 straight years they haven't won the Big Ten, and they sure as hell haven't beaten Michigan. And Ryan Day, another year where he's falling short. You know what he hasn't done? He hasn't won with his guys. You know what he did do? He sure as hell won a lot of big games with Urban Meyer's players. All those guys. Let's look defensive. We mentioned defense, right? Think of what hasn't happened at Ohio State in the last couple years. What hasn't gotten drafted. Those defensive players. Guys like Chase Young, the Bosas, okay? How about guys like Jeff Okudah, Greg Ward, Jordan Fuller, DBs? Urban Meyer was getting those guys left, right, and center. Where are those guys at, Ryan Day? Where are the first round, second round NFL defensive players on your roster? Tui Molau, the DN, congratulations. You got one. Congrats. You got one of them. Houston got one, for God's sakes, back in 2012. Houston, when they weren't cool yet. Okay, and they haven't really been cool in football. They want to be, but they're not. Okay? Offensively, obviously, you still been getting good players, but, congrats. You won with Justin Fields. Chris Olave ain't there. Garrett Wilson. Now, granted, all those, you still got great talent on offense. CJ's good to a degree for an NFL prospect. JSN didn't play all year because he was hurt, but he's awesome. Marvin Harrison's awesome. Emeka Bukas, he's okay. Fleming, poor guy, RIP. I know you had some running back injuries, but here's the thing. Brian Blair sounds like Lovie Smith problems. Brian, elaborate on that. I'm interested what you mean by that. Here's the thing, man. It's you have all of these things come and line up for you, and then all of a sudden, you're unable to check it. It's not sustainable, and I don't know. Now you got USC and UCLA coming in, man. It's not going to be good. And Luke Fickell at Wisconsin, that's a fantastic hire. It's a fantastic hire. Penn State, they're probably going to have the third best odds at best. They're going to have the third highest odds to win the Big Ten next year. Michigan, they're going to be returning a shit ton. They're going to be number 1. Penn State is loaded with young dudes. They're going to be second. Unless Ohio State nails the portal, especially at QB, because right now, don't give me Kyle McCord. Don't give me that shit. Where? I'm just saying. But hey, it's all right, Ohio State fans. If USC loses on Friday, you're probably going to get gift wrapped the playoff spot because this sport is drunk. Lovie Claus's worst coach at entry level keeps getting hired. I don't know. Hey, man, I don't understand why the Texans hired him either, Brian. I really don't. Lovie Claus, though. Hey, man, let me just say this. Shout out to Lovie for having an immaculate beard. And I wish I had that. I'd rock it. I would absolutely rock it. Sorry, guys. I can't spell via text. There we go. All right. So, yeah, I don't understand the Texans thing. He might keep the job, though, I guess. I'm wondering what the Texans will do. I don't understand why they fired dude from last year. Quick Texans thought. Eventually, we're going to give end of the season eulogies throughout the year for NFL teams. We're going to do the Elite Eight here in a minute. I want to thank everybody that's stuck in. Brian, you've been in for a while. If you're watching, man, leave a like, comment. I know my guy Alex dropped by and liked the video. Thank you so much, brother. His boys, man, got it done. He might have a double dip this year with and Georgia in the final. Hope you're doing well, my man. If you're watching, leave a like, please. That'd be great. Ask a question. Ask something fancy. I don't care. You can ask Western Big Six stuff if you want to, for those that care about my Western Big Six basketball opinions. I'm pulling up right now some NFL standing stuff because I want to see if anyone's officially eliminated yet. Because if so, we might just have an impromptu NFL eulogies here. Texans have to be eliminated, right? Officially. They're so bad. God, they're terrible. Maybe not. All right, so we won't do anything yet. Next week might finally be, because we'll actually be in December, might finally be time. During the playoffs for the NBA, we did the NBA playoff eulogies. I think this year it'd be cool to do an NFL eulogy segment where we break down a team by team once they get eliminated. Then the playoffs will mark that down as well. Obviously, the first one will be Houston, more likely next week. Okay. For those watching, again, you can send in questions, comments, thoughts, prayers, whatever, on anything. It's time for the NFL Elite Eight. Let's get to it. But first, let me see something here. But first, let me pay a quick bill here with one of our close friends here, friends of the show. This episode is brought to you by Clint's Draft House Pizza and Grill in Moline and Davenport. Chase away your Sunday scaries at Clint's Draft House Pizza and Grill this season. Located in the Belgium neighborhood of 7th Street in Moline, Clint's Draft House Pizza and Grill is home to some of the Quad City's best food and drink specials. On Sunday, there's no better place to be. Clint's is serving up 75-cent wings and $4 Bloody Marys all day. And is your favorite team playing in those out-of-market games? Well, you'll never miss a second of the action on one of their 10 screens with NFL Sunday Ticket. And after you've had your wing and bloody fix, finish off your football watching experience with one of their famous Quad City-style pop pizzas. And folks, they know pizza. They've been spinning QC-style pies for the last 22 years. So make Clint's part of your Sunday football routine. Clint's Draft House, Pizza and Grill, 7th Street in Moline. And also, Clint's is now serving up their famous pizza and fried chicken on the Iowa side of the river as well. Clint's Pizza House and Chicken opens up daily at 4 p.m. so everyone in the Quad Cities can enjoy their QC-style pizza and Henny Penny fried chicken. That's Clint Pizza House and Chicken, 7th Street in Moline, and 1601 West 3rd Street in Davenport. Yeah. Y'all know what time it is. Enough bullshit. Let's get real, son. It is time for the NFL Week 12 Elite 8. Whatever is happening right now in Indianapolis, that don't matter. Those two scrub teams aren't making the Elite 8. All right, let's get to it. Number 8, the Cincinnati Bengals. So we're back on the Bengals train. Good on them. That was an impressive win. You go to Tennessee and you play their game, and you go Brian with no love for his Chiefs. Eagles, Bills, Super Bowl Elite 2. I don't know about that one, my friend. I would have to pick your boys over anybody right now. I just would. Especially because that game in January is going to be an Arrowhead. Barring circumstances. Anywho, the Bengals right now, to go into Nashville and to win that game against Tennessee the way they did, in the style of game that Tennessee has really won all year. They hold Henry to 33 yards, whatever it was. It was weird. And without Chase, like we said, without Joe Mixon, and they just found a way. Very impressive. They protected Burrow pretty well, especially considering last year in the playoff game, they gave up 9 sacks. the fact that they were able to bounce back and really do good by him and play well in front of him, I thought that was nice. And the defense held up well, man. That's an impressive win. And I've been bullish on Cincinnati all year, but I will say this. They have definitely actually started to be more consistent, but they do still have some massive games ahead of them to where they still might not make the playoffs. They still got to play. Now, granted, they get both, I believe, both of these games at home, because at the beginning of the year, I know next week says, but at the beginning of the year, they had a ridiculous road schedule. They play the Chiefs next week, and then they play the Bills, I think, week 17. So not easy. They still got to play I think they play the Bucks. They got to play the Ravens again. They still got to play the Browns. None of those are easy, man. And, you know, you could still finish 9-8 with that schedule. Bengals at 8. But if they beat Kansas City next week, then I think we're really starting to feel something again. Excuse me, like we did last year. Number 7, the Niners. I dropped them a little bit here for the reason of, like, I understand the Saints have good players, man, but why the hell did you look like you didn't practice for a week after the Mexico City game against the Saints? They just looked disorganized. I know the defense played well, but the Saints offense is horrendous. I just wanted them to look more impressive, I guess. I'm holding them to a higher standard. Niners at 7. I still think they're great, and I think when it's all clicking, it's good. Elijah Mitchell, though, gets freaking hurt again. That's tragic. They had a Debo scare in the first half, so hopefully that's not too serious. But Niners at 7, I still think they're going to be right there when it's said and done. Just had to penalize them a little bit. And we had to reward this team because they won a game in a fashion I didn't think they could, and that's Minnesota. To beat New England in that way, to make a Bill Belichick team look as non-Belichickian, as we make up words, as you can. The special teams score, forcing them into bad mistakes. You know, Belichick's thing has always been, we're going to take away your best and make you beat us another way. Think of the Chiefs when Mahomes, when Mahomes and Brady faced off. The biggest matchups were like, we're going to try to take Tyreek away. And they did a pretty good job of it. So they had to kind of go to an off-speed pitch. I was wondering is if the Patriots were able to take Justin Jefferson away, you know, would the Vikings have a good enough off-speed pitch, especially with the injuries on their offensive line? And they just didn't. They just weren't able to take Jefferson away. Like, it didn't matter. They would still throw guys at him, and Kirk would make the throws, and Jefferson would get open. I think Jefferson obviously made some crazy catches, but Kirk made some dialed-in throws, man. He made some really good throws, and those last couple drives, he was phenomenal. And this offense, when rolling, that's when it's scary. And the defense got going late. I will say this. I was happy to see Mac Jones probably play his best game as a pro. Let's be real. That was it, right? That was Mac Jones' best game as an NFL player. But not enough. They were able to move the ball on New England in a way I didn't think they were going to. Obviously, I didn't think there were going to be many points in that game because I picked the under, and they barely hit the fucking over by halftime, and I was pissed. Regardless, impressive win by Minnesota. All right, number 5, the Buffalo Bills. I mean, they're so flawed and so weird, and now they're getting injured. People are going to want to... Okay, there's two sides to the Bills thing here, because now people are going to want to try to be like, oh, Will Allen only threw for 250 yards and whatnot. It's like, yeah, but like some of the throws he was making, man, like that seed he threw to Diggs at the end of the game was really good. And I also do believe that the Lions kinda, and by kinda I mean really, screwed that game up at the end with the clock management was horrific. And I just don't I just don't see how you have these. I just don't see how you can look at that game and just not be like, hey, I'm impressed with the fact that they were able to win. Joshua here says he thinks the Bills' injuries will keep them out, and I think that could be an issue because when you go down the road, by the way, for everyone watching right now, we're doing the Elite Eight. So far, we've had the Bengals at 8, the Niners at 9, or the Niners at 7, Vikings at 6, and we have the Bills now at 5. My thing with the Bills is because this is why right now I'd take them over the Chiefs over them. And even the Dolphins, to a degree, depending on where that game would be, especially in January, is your secondary injuries. Now they got Trey White back and Jordan Poyer was back, but if Von Miller's not there, that's tough. We'll see. They did say they sound optimistic that the Von Miller injury isn't season ending, so that is massive. That's massive. And I agree the injuries are going to be something that hold them out. Like they've had pretty bad injury luck, but we'll see. Hopefully that's something that they can get over throughout the year. Number 4, everyone's favorite, the Miami Dolphins. I just want to see the morons that are going to be like, not like the people watching, the casual fans that are like, your everyday Bob and Tom, like that might be saying some stuff they don't want to. I'm not talking about those people. I'm talking about like the quote unquote smart people. And there's smart people that are probably watching this as well, or that will be watching or listening to this. Obviously, first off, if you're watching this right now, you're smart because why would you watch the Monday night game over this? I'm just saying. I'm talking like media members on television that are going to just talk about the Dolphins second half yesterday when it's like, dog, they went up 30-0 at half and they pulled the plug. Like they went full conservative mode. They had injuries, which we'll talk about, but they pulled Tua. Tyreek came out and they just stopped. They basically stopped giving a shit. So regardless, here's some scary stuff. So Mostert didn't play yesterday. Hopefully that's a small thing. Jeff Wilson had a weird nick. Hopefully that's okay. Terron Armstead. We knew there was going to be a point this year where Armstead was going to miss games. But God, why did it have to be right when they're about to hit the hardest stretch of the year where we're about to find out, like, if they can win a couple of these games, it's going to help possibly win the division. And it's just going to reassert the fact, like the feeling of, oh, yeah, they're good. They go to San Francisco next. I think it's at San Francisco. They have like this West Coast swing coming up where they play the Niners and then the Chargers. And I think they're both on the road. Let me see. Yep, so they go to the Niners next Sunday. Next Sunday's slate, by the way, is sensational. And then they go to the Chargers, and then they go to the Bills. 3 straight road games, baby. Let's get it. Listen, man. This is where the division's going to be won. If you can somehow go 2-1 in this to get to 10-3 and 10-4, and one of those games and one of those 2 wins is against Buffalo, that might be enough to win the division. Because then you end with Packers. We're probably going to be starting Jordan Love. At New England, who you own. And then at the Jets, who they owe the Jets an ass beating because everyone thinks the Jets are 30 points better than them because Skylar Thompson played quarterback at the Meadowlands. Well, shut your mouth, you morons. So yeah, this next 3 weeks is huge because if you goof the gab and go 0-3, you're 8-6, and then it's like, well, shit, now you have to almost win out the rest of the year. It's like all that hard work would be for nothing. You go 1-2, it's like, it happens. Everyone will all of a sudden start calling them fraudulent. That's what's going to happen. But if they go 1-2, then it's like, whatever. I mean, like you're still not, you'd be 9-5, well in control of your own destiny for the playoffs. 2-1, you're feeling really, really damn good about possibly winning the East as long as one of those wins is Buffalo. If not, then maybe not so much because Buffalo could go 3-0 in that stretch. But if you go 3-0, boys and girls, we might have to really start talking about buying some, booking some flights second Sunday in February to Arizona. I think it's in Arizona. Just saying. Something to keep your mind interested in. We'll see. The next 21 days of Miami Dolphins football starting Sunday. Very, very important. Okay, next. Where are we at here? Number 3, the Dallas Cowboys. Impressive again to continue moving the train forward. That win against the Giants, I do think Dak looked pretty mid. I'm not going to put too much into it. I was very impressed to see them just start to steamroll in the second half. Also, weird how when Zeke does good, no one's like, Zeke's better than Tony Pollard. It's only when Tony Pollard does well that everyone turns into like the toxic ex-girlfriend or the toxic new girlfriend that's like, oh my gosh, you're the new man. Like, I love this new man, blah, 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 to rub it into her old boyfriend's face. Like something like that. Pollard and Zeke are both great. Joshua says the Cowboys will blow it in the playoffs like usual. Pollard is better. They're both great. Pollard and Zeke are both awesome. They're both fantastic. We can love them both. We can do that. It's not like legally binding or whatever. Or would that mean it has to be legally binding? I don't know how that works. It's definitely legal in Utah to love both of them, I think. Brian Blair probably thought that was funny. Pollard is great, and this year he's been better, but Zeke's also still great. My biggest thing that I really liked was that Dallas was able to improve in the second half, like to make adjustments, a weird, groggy first half, and then they just put the Giants in the meat grinder in the second half. And the Giants had to they just had no answer, man. They had no answer. And the fact that the Cowboys were able to put a team in neutral like that and just completely shut them down, very nice to see, especially like the Giants, who have had strong second halves this year. And really in both second halves, the Giants and the Cowboys, the Giants have been dominated by Dallas. But I also think the Giants are kind of screwed. So we'll see. RIP Saquon. I love you, B-Dabs. So the Cowboys at 3. Okay, Eagles at 2. We're going to keep, obviously, like last night was the most impressive that the Eagles have looked in a few weeks. That of course is noteworthy. It was very nice to see them have just kind of a game where they looked like themselves again, and they were able to dominate. It was again after about a half. I thought, or not even a half. What am I talking about? I'm stupid. After about 2 drives, I thought, oh, this is going to get ugly. I was thinking 42-10. I thought we were going to get weird and gross, and I was going to love every second of it because nothing makes me happy more than watching the Packers get absolutely torched on national television. It's like an American pastime. But the Packers showed resolve, and the Eagles were able to counter with that, and Jalen made some throws, and Jalen also ran a lot, and Jalen ran well, and he still kept running and then made some more throws, and their offensive line just mauled dudes, and listen, man, impressed. Now, some defensive issues and whatnot. Yeah. Get Jordan Davis back, please. Their linebackers haven't been great, which is going to be concerning to an extent. Here's the thing. If the Eagles can get to the Super Bowl, their defensive flaws might not be totally cooked unless they play like Miami, because Miami will probably try to run right at them before they try to kick them on the outside. But they play like the Bills or the Chiefs in the Super Bowl. They're not going to be worried. The Bills and the Chiefs don't run the ball, especially the Bills. They don't fucking run. But the Eagles at 2, very nice to see. Like I said, very nice to see them get back to themselves. Jalen was great. Ho-hum, come get you some. And number 1, speaking of ho-hum, The Kansas City Chiefs. Listen, I'm not going to sit here and act like I watched and broke down the All-22 of Bryce Perkins' NFL starting debut yesterday, because I didn't, because I care about my happiness more than that. I watched enough to be impressed that Sean McVay just didn't, piss the game away. Congratulations. By the way, real quick side note on Sean McVay. Does anyone think it's weird that anytime things get weird and bad for the Rams, all of a sudden they're like, well, McVay could retire and go to television? Like, dude, you've been a coach for like 6 years. You're like 35. I look older than you, and I'm 27, bro. Quit acting like your life is so fucking hard. Sean McVay, like, coaching, it's so stressful in the NFL. Like, it's not easy, but Jesus, man, you're bad for one season. Give it a break. Enjoy it. Enjoy the bad times. So when you have the good times, you can relish in them. God, man. Sorry, I had to get that off my chest. Everyone and their dad is like, oh, Sean McVay's just going to retire and leave and go be a TV analyst this year. It's like, why? He's going to run from the smoke because they're terrible? Get fucked then if that's the case, but sorry. Okay, the Chiefs. What what can I actually say about this? Here's the thing. Mahomes, I think, is the MVP. I think I'm the Super Bowl favorite. They continue. Here's where I'm at with. I want to make this note because we're going to be at a spot now for the rest of the year, the last month and whatever, 6 games. So 6 weeks where everyone and their grandfather is going to be like, well, here's why this other person, not named Patrick Mahomes, should win MVP. Last night it was Hurts. In a couple weeks, if Tua beats the Niners and then they beat the Chargers, it's going to be Tua again. And I will even be like, Tua should be in the conversation, but and then who knows? Maybe it'll be Josh Allen again if they get hot to end the year, which could happen. But it's Mahomes' award you win, man. He's been great. He's been awesome all year, and they haven't missed a beat. And I think the fact that game, potentially whether they play the Bills or even the Dolphins, is going to be an Arrowhead again, that's going to matter for the 1 seed, or as the 1 seed potentially. Now, because that's the thing, the Chiefs don't really have any games down the stretch other than Sunday against the Bengals that are like, oh my God, we might lose. They play the Seahawks, but the Seahawks got to go to Arrowhead. The Seahawks will probably be playing for their lives, so that could be a little bit shaky, but man, I don't know. I think the Chiefs are in a great spot. If Tua didn't get injured, Joshua says, this is a good point. So here's the thing. He says if Tua didn't get injured, he definitely would be top, but Mahomes has less weapons, so it definitely should be him. I agree with this. And this is the point that I've been saying on the podcast through all year is like Tua, if Tua didn't get hurt, they definitely beat the Jets. That game was a 1-score game, and Sanders missed like a 50-yard kick, and then the Jets got 3 scores on short fields. When Skylar Thompson was the QB, they probably beat Minnesota, or they beat Cincinnati if Tua doesn't get hurt. They lose one of those games and they win one. So I think honestly right now they're probably 10-1. That's what I think. So that would have mattered for the Tua MVP thing. But either way with that too, I think Mahomes, you lose Hill, the offense gets better, and he's been sensational. So yeah. So that's it. That's the Elite Eight. Brian has a great segue, and you know what? I'm gonna roll with it. We're gonna take a quick 30. We're gonna do a little bit of Big Ten and Big Six hoops talk, and I've got a couple things I want to nail off the chest. So we'll come back. We'll have a nice little basketball segment to end. Brian, fire up some Big Six and Big Ten questions for me. I need like 2 for each, so I can just have something to rattle off the top here. We'll take a quick little break, and we are going to end the show after this with some fun basketball talk because it's that season. But real quick, to round up the Elite Eight, Bengals at 8, Niners at 7, Vikings at 6, Bills at 5, Dolphins 4, Cowboys 3, Eagles 2, and the Chiefs, welcome back. Not welcome back. They've been number 1 for like a month now. You're still at number 1. Congratulations. We'll be right back. Hoops Talk to end the show next. This episode is brought to you by the Corner Tap. Who doesn't need a solid handcuff on their fantasy squad? Grab a bite to eat at Clint's Draft House while watching the noon games, and then head on over across the Moline Rock Island border to the Corner Tap for some libations during the 3 o'clock games. Every Sunday is fun day at the Corner Tap with $3 tall boys, Bloody Marys, Jack Daniels, and $2 PBR drafts. Head into the Corner Tap, 4018 14th Avenue, Rock Island, and get into the end zone. Okay, I'm back. I almost slipped a disc, like going to get a water. Okay, let's end this thing on a great note. Shout out to people that have been enjoying this. Shout out to people that have been interacting. Big 6, Big 10 stuff. So, quickly some college hoops things from over the weekend that kind of piqued my interest. Purdue winning one of the PK90 brackets, pretty damn impressive. They did win, right? Yeah, they won because they're still undefeated because they knocked off Duke. Brian asks, are Purdue and Illinois the class of the Big Ten? As of right now, yeah. I think Illinois clearly showed in Vegas that they are at a different level than what you would probably look at most of the league. Here's the thing that I've always said, especially with what they have done in the transfer portal. They look different than a regular Big Ten team. They look like a Big 12 team. And I told Tanner this, said they look like a Big 12 team. Look at this spacing and look at all these good wings. And I said why that's important is because Big 12 teams win national titles. I think Illinois is great. Purdue, I don't want to say they shocked me with what they've done over the weekend. I guess it's just more of the fact that they dominated the way they did over Duke. Edey is really good for what he is. He's a force down there. He can protect the rim. The petty part of me, which I'll just get this, I'll fire this bullet. I wish Kofi Coburn got the whistle that Edey does. Brian, don't kill me. I had to get that off. He gets for being a huge dude, he gets a really good whistle. Which good on him. It's almost like those guys should be getting those calls. But they actually do have other guys that I like. The problem is going to be even when Illinois plays them, can Illinois spread them out? When Iowa plays them, can Iowa spread them out? Michigan State barely squeaking by. They lost Alabama. They were overrated for beating Kentucky. So right now, though, I will agree. Purdue, top of the Big Ten. I like some of the other guys on their team. Foster Lawyer, thought it's a really good transfer for Purdue. The Smith kid that's a freshman, I think he's solid. First off the bench is good, and then Miles Gillis, I think, is a really nice player. So Big Ten wise, I think that's for the future. Illinois right now, they still have a tough schedule to start the season, which I'm glad they do, but they answered a lot of questions for me in Vegas. Here's some of them real quick. And Brian, if you got any more Big Ten stuff before you fire off some Big Six stuff to me, by all means. For Illinois, I wanted to find out kind of where they were at amongst some of the elite teams. And going to Vegas, what they really showed me was that they can hang with teams if you have experience. Like the fact that they were able to hang with a team that had experience like UCLA meant the world to me. They were able to take that punch. They were able to make it a little ugly, and then they found a way to win. They're going to win a lot of those games. This isn't going to be the Illinois team of the last few years where I wouldn't say they weren't physical or tough, but they were more of a finesse style game. Now, you can't really say finesse when you have a freaking left tackle playing center for you who's bulldozing dudes all over the floor. I think just the style that they're going to play this year compared to offensively, especially last year, because last year it was we need threes or Kofi or we can't do anything on offense. The year before, when I really thought that they could win the national title, they just played Loyola and they played a bad matchup for them, comboed with they played the worst game they played all season. And see you later. That knocked them out. What they had with that team was they had the threes, they had Kofi inside, but they also had Ayo, who did a lot, and also Curbelo as a freshman was just amazing. This team, it's nothing like any of those other teams. I honestly think this might be the best team that Brad has had at Illinois. I think with the wings, that's what the game is. I know in college you need good guards, but look at Kansas. Just look at Kansas last year. They did not have a dominant guard. Look at Baylor the year before. I know Butler and Mitchell were good, but that is a team full of wings and speed and defense. This Illinois team is full of wings and speed and defense, and they're going to guard you like crazy. They're going to push. They're going to pace teams like crazy. They're going to have the best pace in the Big Ten. Not many teams are going to be able to handle that, the style of play that they're going to have, because they're just going to be able to throw dudes at everybody. And the thing that's impressed me the most is some of the freshmen that I really wasn't expecting this year have been really good, like Epps and Harris. Epps is sensational, and Harris has got just some stones, man. I love both of those guys. And I think Sky Clark, he's going to be really good too. I think eventually at the end of the year, I think him and Shannon right now clearly is their best player. But I think at the end of the year, Clark definitely will be right up there with him. Because I think the more and more the season goes on, you put like 4 forwards. You can do like 3 wings, Danger and Clark, or just spread it out with the 4 wings. And then Clark. And Clark's going to be able to do so many things. By the end of the season, he's really good. Other than that, Ryan wants some Big Six talk. I'm excited for Big Six stuff. Oh, Brian says, is the Juwan Howard show about over? I wouldn't say that. I think Michigan. Now, who just clipped them? Let me try to find out who just knocked them off. Oh, yeah, they got bulldozed by Arizona State. I just don't think they're as good. I think the problem for them last year was that they were overrated to begin the year because they just got some 5 stars that I didn't think were great regardless. And then after that, they made the tournament, which they shouldn't have made. They shouldn't have. They should not have made the tournament. And then they made the Sweet 16. So now they're going to kind of be compared to that. Tough. Big tough. It's kind of unfair. I'm not trying to make excuses for them because I don't like them, but it's a little unfair when you really think about it. So that's a bit tough. They're going to be held to a weird standard because last year everyone thought they were going to be this preseason top 5 team and they just never were, and they should have never been. And then I think people think this year they're going because Hunter's back, but outside of Hunter, they're very average. I think Jet, his son's kind of good, but outside of that, it's like, what do they have? But and because again, they made the Sweet 16, even though they shouldn't have made the tournament last year. I don't think that's going to be. I don't think that's it's going to be tough for them. One other Big Ten note, and then I'll see if Brian's got any Big Six stuff for me. Indiana. I'm interested to see if Indiana is going to be this year's Michigan. So they get the recruits. They get the Hood-Schifino kid. They got another kid who's really good, too, as a freshman that everyone loves. They obviously return TJD, who I'm sure you all know. My thoughts on TJD. Now, granted, he's been pretty awesome. I will say, here's where I flipped a little on TJD. When the Big Ten tournament started last year, he started cooking, and he was really good. in all the Big Ten tournament games that they played in, and then he was really good in the tournament games they were in until they got housed by St. Mary's. And this year, they needed all of his stuff to beat Xavier, and I think a lot of their stuff this year they're going to win because of him. I'm interested to see what happens when you hold that receipt up to the light, though, when we get into league play. You know what I mean? And I don't know. Everyone wants to think that they're going to be awesome. Hold my breath on Indiana. I just would. I think a team that could be really good, though, is Maryland. Mainly because I love the coaching hire. Willard, the dude from Seton Hall. That's Illinois plays them next Friday. No, this Friday. Not excited. Not want that as our first Big Ten game. Because Willard's teams always have been just nasty, and Willard, I think, is a sensational hire for them. They go to Maryland, and they've always struggled with Maryland. So, won't be shocked if that's an early L for Illinois. Moline, Final Four or bust? Pretty damn close. Maybe? Sectional title. Be the second 4A team in Big Six history to do it. Third. Shout out to Quincy last year. Forgot about that. If you get to the... Because at that point, I guess who would they end up meeting up with? Probably like Bolingbrook or something. You're going to meet a pretty good team in the Elite Eight if you got there. And we're obviously talking way down the road, but if you somehow landed there, you'd feel good about it. I think at least sectional title should be the goal. Getting to Champaign is like, I think if you're realistically in your own mind, you'd think like sectional title, like we should feel this should be our biggest accomplishment. That like the lowest on the check. Obviously, win the league first, regional, sectional, all that stuff. But like, win the sectional. Let's get to the Final Four. Give yourself a shot, and then see what happens. Hot take Big Six predictions. My hottest take in the Big Six honestly might be that Sterling, I think, might be the third best team in the league. I don't know if I have much to prove it yet, but I guess it's based on the fact that they have two of the players I like the most coming back. Schilling and Lucas Austin are really good. And if they can kind of maneuver the rest of the pieces around that, the biggest reason that it's hard for me to be like yes on that is because they really haven't gotten big wins. Like their best win in 2 years, honestly, is like they went to UT and won in a double overtime game, which was nuts. They beat UT at home last year. They haven't beat Rocky. Did they beat? I don't think they beat Quincy. They give Moline hell when they go there, when they go to Sterling. But last year, Sterling came to Moline and Moline hung 100 on him. But I think Sterling could be pretty good. I mean, that's a 4-year starter and a 2-year starting big guy who I think's improved. So that's like could be my hottest take. Rocky's like the most interesting. Rocky and UT are both in the most interesting category. Shout out to Cameron Atkinson, 33, I believe, Saturday. Dimitri and Singleton said he gave me the old head up of, look out for him and his improvement. And I was really interested just because, like, from what he was last year as a 3, kind of just a sharpshooter. Obviously, you had Amari Nimmers, who's one of the 2 best players in Rock Island history. Obviously, you had Baker and Mari and Marian Anderson. You had those 2 guys, so Cameron was kind of like the 4th, 5th option. Cam's got skill to be a number 1 guy. So I will love to see in games this year when they need him to kind of drag him out of some situations. I think those can be Those will be interesting. I'm excited for Devontae Cartwright there. I liked how Mark just kind of turned him loose defensively, let him go do a bunch of stuff. That was fun. And then UT, they're like the biggest wild card because of how they've played the last few years, but I think this is the team that fits how they do things the most. Bristol Lewis is awesome. Marion Roberts has taken a step. You have Devontae Wright. Caden Terrell is an interesting piece because he can be very streaky, but he also can be really good. Now you give him varsity minutes. We'll see. This is how I've kind of said the league, though. Moline's in their own tier right now. I think that's clear. We'll get back to them in a sec. Quincy's in their own tier, more or less. And then it's kind of everybody else. You obviously have the big group, which would be Rocky, UT, Sterling, Galesburg, and then you have Geneseo Almond, which no disrespect to them, that's kind of where they're at. Well, the Moline thing is like this. Like, I watched other games this weekend, and then I watched theirs, man. Like, it's a different level of game. It's a different level of game, what they were playing this week. It just was. And that was, like, if they could have got 2-0 out of there, that would have been damn impressive. But the fact that they were able to kind of weather the storm in that second game, pretty impressive as well. So I'm excited, though. I'm excited. I'm interested to see Galesburg Friday because I haven't seen much of them yet. I haven't really looked too much into them yet. I have a lot of respect for Chad and what they've got out there. So the white Stephen A. Smith, my receding hairline is about as dominant as Stephen A. Smith's, Brian. But yeah, man. So that's where I'm at. That is where we are. The rest of the week, I have zero idea what we're gonna do. In a perfect world, Mac is with me Wednesday for the Sinister Six. Maybe I might just have Danny. I might have Buck come on here with me, and I'm gonna put the spread. I'm gonna get 2 cups, and I'm gonna put a dog treat in each one of them, and the spread for each side is gonna be on it. And I might just have Buck, whatever one Buck takes. That's what we're gonna pick. That's gonna be our 6 picks. Maybe that might be it. That might be what we do this week. Danny heard that, and I think he likes that idea. We might have Buck do a Sinister Six this week. That would be funny. All right, we're out. We want more Danny hot jeans. He's probably wearing some hot jeans right now. All right. For those that listen, those in attendance, we all thank you. This has been the Educating Ignorance Podcast. I need some water. I would say it's past my bedtime, but we all know that's a lie. Until next time, remember, if you ain't got your game, you best pass the sticks. We will see you when we see you. We are out.